It's going to be interesting, I think, like the others have been. These guys come to give back to you guys. So without any other kind of further ado type other than that, Tyler has brought Dan down to see. Do you guys know who Dan is? Yeah. Other than what I told you before? Okay. So with that, anything you want me to say, or you just want to take over from
No, I just want to help these guys over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, it's up to you.
All right.
It's all on you.
Hey guys, thanks for letting me come down and giving me some moments of your mind share. I was going to tell you a little bit of my crazy story. Pretty wild. So I grew up in Los Angeles, in Torrance, and also lived in Van Nuys for a little bit. I got a lot of trouble. So I was in not the same facility here because I was a little younger, for a lot of bad things I did when I was young. And then after all that, they shipped me to Utah. And my sister worked at the University of Utah, and she adopted me for like 2 weeks and then kicked me out. And then I tried not to revert to bad habits, but started to a little bit. But then I got this job in the mall. Anyone here ever been to a Fashion Place mall? Right? Radio Shack, right? So this old guy comes in and he brings in a ham radio. And he's like, son, can you fix my ham radio? And I'm always tinkering with electronics, you know. So I fix his ham radio and I hand it back to him. He's like, what do I owe you, man? And I'm like, nothing, man. He's like, do you like Chinese food? I'm like, well, I'm Chinese, so. Yeah, you can buy me food if you want, dude. So we go to the lunch area, and he's not dressed fancy. And I go, so what do you do? And he says, oh, I was babysitting 25,000 employees. I had a company, I just sold it for $2.7 billion, and now I just walk around the mall all day. I'm a wife, don't have a wife, you know, nothing, no family. So he's like, you need a mentor? And I'm like, well, what's a mentor? Like, I didn't even know what it meant. He goes, well, somebody to show you how life works, you know, in a good way. And I'm like, I'm all suspicious with this guy. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, I'll stop by once a week. You fix my stuff for free. I'll teach you about life. Okay. So for the next year, he taught me about like stocks, taught me about the internet. That was coming out. This is back in the early 90s. And electronics and all this kind of stuff, though. And what was crazy, this is no joke, because I didn't have a degree or anything. Always got Fs, straight Fs and Ds. I did pretty well for myself, and within less than 5 years, I made $1 million with no education. Just doing what this guy told me to do, and it was all up and up, good, honest stuff. So I wanted to share with you guys some of the things he taught me, and you don't have to have some PhD to do it. I don't have a PhD. I do have a graduate degree from Stanford that they gave me for free after the companies I did good. So Stanford reached out and they're like, hey, your company is the 236th biggest company and fastest growing in America. You want to come teach our professors? I'm like, I don't have a degree, I'm not super educated. They're like, well, just come down anyway. And so they gave me a graduate degree and I gave it to my mom and she's like, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, didn't even have to study. So, I suffer from massive ADD, guys. My brain's like crazy. It's always like thinking about this, thinking about this. Sometimes I only sleep an hour here or there. Sometimes I sleep good. It's really jumpy. So that's why I always refer to notes. So I'm not like this canned motivator speaker. I'm just going to tell you my experience and hopefully it helps you, okay? So do I have permission to be super direct with you guys? Like ultra direct? And look at the time here, make sure I stay good. Okay. You guys flag me when I have like 5 minutes left or something.
It's a captive audience. I don't think they're going anywhere yet.
Okay. Well, you guys, let me know. I don't. Okay. No, I just want to help these guys. So now I'm going to give you a lot of stuff. It's called the brain dump. Probably just grab 1 or 2 or 3 things that work for you and say, I'm going to do that, and you'll be fine. And you'll do a lot better than where you were. That's the thing. Okay. So just to tell you, I don't want to brag. I don't say this to impress you. I'm just going to tell you to impress upon you kind of the things, some of the things I was able to experience since I met that mentor 31 years ago. Is I started a computer company, PC laptops, sell computers, mainly for businesses. 31 years ago, so it's still around. Then I started this gaming computer company called Xidax to make computers for like famous YouTubers like Mr. Beast and all these crazy people on the internet, you know, these crazy internet people. And then all these kids want to play video games and these companies want to make video games. So if you ever play a video game like on Xbox, like Grand Theft Auto 6, that's coming out, everything crazy, it's probably made on one of our computers. You're probably going to play it on one of our computers. Back in 2014, I built the biggest Bitcoin mining facility in the state of Utah. So that's becoming a thing. And I'll talk about AI and crypto and stuff because you guys got to be prepared to embrace this when you get out because the world is not going to be the same in the next 5 years. And the good news, though, is stuff you can study up on now. You didn't really lose any time actually being here. In fact, now you have all the time while you are here to study, which you can, so when you go out, you're relevant. Because if you go to college for 6 years, 8 years, by the time you're done learning that, it's all outdated anyway now. So this is actually a good time for you to put yourself through your own mental study. Okay, so first thing first. I discovered that energy is energy. So meaning, when I was a teenager, and when I did a lot of bad things, when I was convincing people to buy this, sell this, do this deal, negotiate with these guys, do some peace treaties, whatever needed to happen, energy is energy. One thing I learned when I was younger on the streets is your word is your bond. If you over-deliver to a customer, whatever you're selling, they're happy. All customers and all people have pain, so if you can find out what that pain is and you can solve that, you'll get paid for that, right? So people have pain. It doesn't matter what you're selling, whether it's legal or not. The nice thing about selling legal stuff is you can do it for a long period of time and not get in trouble for it, right? But the energy to sell a bag of something bad versus, I don't know, a computer, a website redesign, landscaping, snow shoveling, it's the same thing. You guys see what I'm saying? You're selling something where they have a problem, you're solving it. People pay for problem solving. So I would bet you the majority of the guys here all have very good sales experience, selling something. Negotiating experience. A few guys here probably been in a fight. Anyone here been in a fight, right? So you're not super fearful of most people, right? Pretty courageous. So fear is the number one thing that stops us from doing anything. And since you guys have experienced a lot in life, like me, fear really isn't a major problem for most things, right? Now, if you do have a problem with fear, I'll teach you guys a trick to overcome that, because sometimes we fall back into that when things get rough, right? So I'll give you some things that'll help you. Let's see. So there's 3 rules to success. I didn't write this. A mentor guy told me about this, and he learned it from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, right? There's 3 things you want to really develop in yourself. And this is a tough one for a lot of people to have all 3. But if you can master all 3, you're going to do well. Integrity, right? So doing what you say, right? I'm going to do this. Okay, you follow up, right? I'm going to mow this lawn. I'm going to build this computer. I'm going to make this video, whatever it is. Critical. Energy, right? People can feel good vibes and bad vibes. You know, you can just look at somebody and know if they're going to be problematic, right? You guys can do that. You can see that. You can feel it, right? It's energy. Or you know if, hey, this is actually a pretty authentic, genuine human being. You can feel it, right? I mean, that's all about, and you don't even, unspoken. And then intelligence is educating yourself. Now, the beautiful thing is, again, I keep saying this about intelligence. I was always programmed when I was little that you had to go to college for many years and learn all this stuff to be respected and to make a lot of money. But really, you don't. Most of my friends, 99% of them, are dropouts and D&F students. And most are pretty rowdy. But that rowdiness is actually not a curse. That's just energy. Raise your hand if you've watched Star Wars. You ever watched Star Wars? Okay. So the difference between the dark side and the light side really is a fine line, right? In war, usually whoever wins is the hero, right? So if we went through World War II and the bad guys won, we would have been the enemy and they would have told the stories to the children of who was right, right? That's just how life goes. So energy to do good and to do evil is the same energy. It really is. So being if you guys are in here, you got a lot of energy, which means your probability of having the Force, like in Star Wars, is high, which means you've got this. If you guys ever played a video game, you know how you have hit points? It's like red, right? You get hit points. You got mana if you're a wizard casting spells and fireballs, right? Now, it just depends where you're directing the fireball, right? So the biggest thing you have to do is forgive yourself. I was telling one of the military security dudes, he was telling me about domestic issues with his wife. Well, I divorced. I said, don't look back, it screws with your neck. I won't use profanity, but you know which word to use. Don't look backwards, you know? You gotta really look forward, because you can't change anything you did. You can't. But the one thing that mentor guy told me, Mike is his name, and he pulled a group of young men, because he was mentoring a few of us back in the day. And actually I'm going to lunch with him next week, he's really old now. But he took us all to this fancy restaurant in Las Vegas, flew us all out there, and he said, who here who's done a great atrocity in your life? And all of us stood up except for one kid, right? And he goes, you've never done anything bad? And the kid's like, no, that I can think of. And he goes, it's time for you to leave the table. Because anyone who says it's lying, right? It's not truthful. So he goes, I want all you guys now to forgive yourself for whatever you did and dedicate your life to making up for all those atrocities you did. And everyone's all looking guilty, remembering all this shit that they did. Flashbacks, you know, PTSD from all that. So, and he goes, but I want to tell you the ratio is like 10,000 to 1. I'm like, what's that? He goes, you'll probably never fulfill making up for what you did bad, but you better spend the rest of your life here striving to do that. So when it comes to that decision time, you have the devil on your shoulder and the angel, and the devil's going, oh, do that, do this, do that, you know, do this bad thing. And the angel's like, oh, do this, do the right thing, right? But when you're thinking that you have to make up for that, you look at it's like Bugs Bunny. You look at the angel and you're like, all right, you flick the devil off your shoulder, right? But everything happens in a split second as far as a decision. But if you pre-decide ahead of time what decision you're going to make, right? They say men don't reach mental maturity until 42 years old. Why is that? Because usually we're driven by testosterone, ego, and rage until about 42. A man's highest income earning potential time as a male is 45 to 70. So some of you guys are younger than that, some of you are older than 40. I'm 51. I feel like I'm in my prime and the opportunity is there. A lot of my friends, though, really made their fortunes way past 40, some 50, some 60. And I think you would find most successful entrepreneurs were very rowdy in their younger years, you know. You just learn from it, you know. That's the big thing. So I'm going to give you, again, some tools on how to do this. It sounds great. So now you're all motivated and you're like, okay, I can make something of myself. And now I'm going to give you how you can do what you want to do. First, you need to study who you want to be. So you got to pick like a hero. It doesn't have to be someone you can meet in person. It doesn't have to be. It could be someone on the internet. It could be like Elon Musk, you know, like spaceship dude, electric car guy, right? It could be Amazon guy, you know. He has a cute girlfriend now and the richest guy in the world, whatever you want to be, right? It could be someone who's just doing charity work because that's their calling, you know? It's not always about money, right? But poverty isn't everything. Money's not everything, poverty isn't everything either, right, guys? Like, a lot of money will make a bad guy worse. A lot of money will make a good guy want to help people more. It's just an amplifier. So there's 3 aspects that you guys really need to dial in. And if you ignore any one of them, you're not going to reach your full potential. There's physical, right? So they give you guys workout equipment here and you can run around and stuff, play ball, that kind of thing, right? Be as optimally physical as you can, right? Because if you feel good physically, it makes your mind clear and you can make everything else a reality, right? Financial is very important. You need to understand what it takes. And that's what I did, is just followed my mentor's instruction guide, which I'll give you, of how to get to that outcome you want financially. And then spiritually, I used to, when I was little, my parents, I was raised Baptist, super religious. They would force it down my throat, and I'd almost reject it, And that's why I kind of went crazy. But then it kind of came back to me, in that my dad said something interesting. He said, and my mentor told me this too, which is weird. Same thing my dad told me. We are only here for a little bit amount of time. Everything we do here is simply a lease from God. You have a lease for maybe 100 years on this planet, maybe longer if they can clone you or something, but it's probably 100 years or less. Your productivity years are maybe, I don't know, till like 70, 80 or something like that, right? If you can take care of yourself. But it's a lease, and then you're dead, right? So really during that time that you're given this gift of life, if you wake up and you're in jail, if you wake up and you're a billionaire, just the fact that you're breathing and you're alive is a blessing in itself, right? That you're actually still existing. Because, crap, you could be, I joke with guys, I say you could be in the bathroom surfing Instagram and die of a freaking aneurysm taking a shit. Like, life is instantly could be gone. So it's a privilege that we're all here, right? Isn't that freaking cool? But what you do with that time is the key. So what you have to do is you got to force yourself to write down, preferably on paper, what you want physically. So what's your definition of how a physical specimen, right? This much body fat, this much muscle, this many push-ups, can run this far, whatever your definition, you know what yours is. Money too, I don't know, $1 million, $10 million, $1 billion, $1 trillion, $50, I don't know, everyone's different. Some people are happy, I know plenty of people that are happy to have no money. I know billionaire people that want to shoot themselves in the face because they're just like so hating themselves because they've hurt so many people, and they feel bad about it. So, but I know really wealthy people who are super happy because they can help other people and they're free with their time. Like the greatest blessing to me is not being on some luxurious vacation or driving a Lambo or anything like that. It's actually talking to you guys right now. Because look, we got a whole room of souls here, and I'm a soul. And you know why Chinese people bow to each other? Because it means the God in me acknowledges the God in you. So we're all the same level. There's no difference, right? And when we die, we're all going to have no money. So everything here is a lease. So what do we do with those tools, right? I hope that helps a little bit. Okay, so you got to write down what you want physically, spiritually, financially. And you got to be very clear. The clearer you are, the faster it'll become a reality. Anybody hear about all this manifestation stuff? Like you got to manifest? Manifestation, get this guys, is simply convincing your subconscious to take action, right? That's all it is. Manifestation is simply convincing yourself. So you could glue crystals to your forehead, you could go take ayahuasca in South America and all this crap. At the end of the day, you're just convincing yourself to do some sort of action. Make a song, make a video, start a company, mow a lawn, shovel some snow, build a computer, any of that, right? It's just you're convincing yourself, right? You see all these people on the internet talking about, oh, no one outworks me, it's all about hustle, hustle, hustle. 90% of people spend their time doing aimless crap. Even these people that are doing really well, they're just dealing with their weird feelings that they're having and this drama and this and that, but they're maybe putting 10% of their time maximally, maybe a little bit more in a sprint to actually getting something that benefits those three areas, physical, financial, spiritual. Would you guys agree? Right? I mean, a lot of people will high horse themselves, whether they make a lot of money or they're really buff or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's all the same fears. It's all the same emotions. It's all the same insecurities. It's all the same looking at the roof at night, wondering what the heck you're doing. Will you lose it? Will you keep it? But I'm going to teach you guys how to deal with those thoughts, because those thoughts create your reality, right? Okay. So this is how you prioritize. It's called ABC. And you need to do a brain dump. So you're going to write down everything in your head that you want to achieve and any goal, right? So it could be money, it could be anything, right? get a house with a white picket fence and a beautiful wife, whatever you want, right? You got to write it down. A is important and life-changing. B is mediocre, you know what I'm talking about, C is just complete crap, right? So if you're like, oh, I want to get drunk for 2 weeks, well, it's probably complete crap because it's not going to really do anything. But maybe it's make this much money, and what are you going to do with that? You're going to help this charity, you're going to build this, you're going to hire some guys, you're going to contribute, right? So when you have all your A's, you want to number them. So you have 10 cool ideas, things that you want to achieve or ideas, whatever it is. There's no judgment. And you number them from 1 to 10 as far as priority of importance to you, right? Now here's the magic. You circle the top 3, so your A1, right? Your A2 and A3, that's what you work on every day. That's your non-negotiable. So if I was in here with you guys, or if I remember my time, I would say work out and do this many push-ups and sit-ups a day. Pray and meditate this much time a day, right? Study this much a day on these subjects. Non-negotiable, every day, you know? And then anything beyond that's extra credit. So everything you do usually is only to equate to really one big thing physically, financially, and spiritually a day. If you do that, pat yourself on the back. And if you want to do extra credit, right? That's important. Is that sticking to you guys? You guys see what I'm saying? You can do this. Can you guys write this down? Okay. When I talk about finding people's pains and helping heal them, a lot of people won't tell you straight up. And I usually just try to look at their cues. But nowadays, with the modern society, people post on the internet every pain they have, right? Do you notice most people do on their Instagram or Facebook? You guys don't have social media, but when some of you guys have been on social media quite a bit through the years, and you've seen they'll post like, "I love this. This is my problem. My ex-wife's doing this to me," whatever, right? So if you can find a problem that they have and help, whether it's just listening or solving a problem for somebody, you know, that's how you find opportunity, right? Old man's problem was his radio kept breaking. I could fix that. And what would I have to pay that old man to mentor me? Probably couldn't afford it. There's no way, you know? A billionaire guy, how you gonna afford that, you know? Fix his radio, right? So you gotta seek people's pains. You can actually do this here and seek people's pains. The interesting thing is we see a separation of class in reality outside of here. Rich people, middle class people, poor people, but they all have the same emotions. And so people start to think that super wealthy people or super poor people or people that are criminals or people that are heroes are actually wired differently. It's all circumstantial. I love all the security guys here too. But let me ask you this, and you guys will laugh, and security guys, you guys will laugh too. Even the most virtuous heroes of our planet, if their children were starving and their ribs were poking out, and they needed to feed them, and they needed to hurt someone to get food for their child, would they? Would you? That's the thing. Every man can be pushed to where they will do things they would not normally do in their character to survive and protect their family. That's how I got to forgiving myself. Now, the whole idea was to create a situation where you weren't under those desperate conditions, right? And created a buffer for yourself and your family to create some level of sanity and security. And the cool thing is, just like bad habits are addicting, good habits are actually addicting too. They're just a lot slower, you know? Like a lot slower. It's like the difference between hunting and eating a deer and then like growing an apple tree. Like it's slow to go, you know? But I'd say at the end of the day, being a farmer is much richer than just killing things all day, you know? And it's less tiring, and you can do it when you're an old man, right? I want you guys to think about that, because some of you are young men, some of you are older men like me. You won't be young forever, and you're gonna be an old man before you know it, right? So the earlier you get started, the better. Now those of you that are older guys with some grays, I plucked my grays, but it's never too late, you know? Colonel Sanders started his KFC when he was in his 60s, right? So the McDonald's guy was like almost 60 something. So it's like, It's always time, as long as you're alive, okay? All right, guys, I hope this is soaking in a little bit. I want to teach you guys something about the law of the universe. It's called the law of reciprocity. A lot of times when we do something for somebody, we expect payment, right? You do work, you get payment. You know, but really, it's like farming. You've planted a seed if you do something kind without something in return that you expect. Then it comes back in a strange way. You'll find that the more you do selfless things like that, the luckier you get. It's weird. I don't get it, but it just kind of works that way. Maybe the universe knows. Maybe it's God who knows, or an angel or something. I don't know. But when you do something to actually help somebody, it comes back, right? To take that moment. It's kind of interesting. So if you're, again, always looking for that opportunity, if there's some, I don't know if all you guys know each other really well. Some of you guys don't. You probably hang out with different groups of guys and stuff. But if you do talk to a stranger, you say, hi, my name is, I go, hi, my name is Dan. You know, what's your name? And they're like, John. John, man, what are you working on? How can I help? Or John, what's your story? Right? And when they tell you, everyone wants to get their story out, right? I would bet you, even if you ask some of the security guys here, what's your story? They got a crazy story. You know, everyone's got a story, right? But that helps you identify what the problem is, you know. And at the end of the day, making friends. The highest paying skill you're going to have is charisma. Like, people like, man, that guy was nice to me. I want to help him out, you know? That's that thing. And you don't even have to tell someone to pay you back, because subconsciously their brain is going to force them to try to make it good with you, right? But that works in both directions. Someone's mean to you, you want to be mean back. You want to be good. But isn't it great, like, having the opposite, where you're doing something nice and they are obligated subconsciously to want to do something nice back? It's called positive revenge. It's really weird, you know? So life just works, again, good, bad, evil, who knows what it's all made of. But these are the laws of the universe. Okay. So how are you guys going to make money when you're out of here? Okay. The world is changing, so I would study as much as you can about technology. Bitcoins, right? Blockchain, understand, learn it. It's fun anyway. Learn about this stuff. Learn about artificial intelligence. Learn about how it works. I think they give you guys limited access to things, right? So you can read books on it and things like that. But as much as you guys can have exposure to those things, it's going to prepare you. And just think of this. If you were here for another year, 2, 3, 4, I don't know. But that's all study time. And if you learn all this stuff and you get out and your brain is primed on that and you got no distractions except for, work out, pray, meditate, learn. Come out, create an empire, right? This is like training facility, you know, to learn to be ready for that. Physical labor jobs, people go, are they good or bad? I go, they can pay good. I got a friend named Jason. He just made $300 million. He's got, his whole body is tattooed, bald guy. Very, very tough dude. I wouldn't want a one-on-one with him. He started cleaning toilets. He got in trouble. He cleaned toilets. And then he thought, shit, these shitters, they're so stinky, these outhouses at concerts. What if we can make one that smells better? So he invented one with like a little air circulation system and hand lotion with hand sanitizer built in and a seat that cleans itself. He invented that. So he started renting them out to concerts and stuff. And I think they gave him like about $300 million for his little deal. And people ask him, how'd you make your money? He goes, crappers, you know? So like craziest thing out of nowhere. I was talking to this one guy, Polynesian guy, and he was doing security at one of our events. And I go, what'd you do before? He goes, oh, I was a police officer in Provo. And he goes, it was fun, I loved it. And he goes, but now I started my own security company, hired a bunch of different guys, a bunch of retired dudes, and a few guys I used to work with. And I go, what do you make? And he goes, about $3.5 million a year. I go, how long are you doing this? He's like, 3 years. I'm like, what do you do? He goes, I organize and I sell. I'm like, how do you sell? He goes, I go on social media and find out all these high-profile people that need security, and I just message them, you need security? You need security? You need security? And he goes, I messaged and called 100 in the first month, and I got 3 accounts. And one was some rich dude in Park City. That was his first contract, $1.2 million a year. I'm looking at this guy going, whoa. And this guy's like tattooed neck to arm, full sleeve. Like you look at him and you're like, doesn't look like a business dude. But then it was crazy because all he had like 8 guys, 8 operator dudes covering the whole perimeter and stuff. And they were geared up and stuff like these guys, And I'm like, hey, is he a good boss? They're like, oh, he's the greatest boss. He pays better than anybody. He's nice to us. Clients love us, giving us good work. Just gives us a rule book, So it's just so cool to see really from any aspect, you could really just turn something into gold. We're sitting in the most opportunistic time with the internet right now to get your message out there too. Now the one big thing I want to share you guys is your miss is your gold. So I open up by telling you guys about my screw ups, right? And you guys all screwed up too, right? But that's actually the thing you shouldn't hide. Because if you're courageous enough to tell people what your miss was, but then what your win is, they want to help you. You notice that? Like people want to help you as long as you're honest about it, right? And if you tell people, this is what I went through, man, but this is where I am now. They call that, this is a big word. It's called, and I had to practice this word, epiphany bridge. Usually in life, you're mediocre or insignificant, and then you do have a big miss. You either do some horrible crime or get addicted to something or whatever it is, and then you hit rock bottom, right? Then a light bulb goes off in your head when you're in solitude, when you're hearing that quiet, and God, whoever tells you what it is, light bulb goes out. Then you start executing on it, and then you're on your rise to power. But that's why I'm obligated, actually, I had to come here, because that epiphany bridge will happen probably the most to you guys if you decide you want it to happen. The key is the light bulb going off in your head right now? Does anyone here got a little light bulb going off? Like you're thinking you can do something? Like you could really do something? Yeah. Okay. You want to make sure that you reward yourself in a little celebratory way as you're making progress. So if you're reading books, you've got your first one on a certain subject or whatever it is, you made your first sale later or whatever it is, you got to congratulate yourself. Some people will set the number so high, they're like, oh, it's got to be $1 million or I just fail. But as you move towards that, like, hey, I actually got my first customer and I made $100. Give yourself a pat in the back, right? Because you're positively reinforcing like that action that you took, okay? Books to read, and these books are probably available. First one is called Think and Grow Rich. Anyone here read Think and Grow Rich yet? Oh man, great book. If you hadn't read it, read it. If you read it, read it again. Read it again. Great book, just good for your own psychology. There's another one. This one's actually better than Think and Grow Rich. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Who's read that? Oh man, if you just did what's in that book, you would make more money than you probably should reasonably spend if you just did that all day, Anybody here ever own a dog, like a cute little dog? I have pugs, right? These little dogs that are not pit bulls, I'm talking like a pug or like a Shar-Pei or something, or a little fluffy. They make their whole living just being charismatic, right? Anybody here ever see Pulp Fiction? Okay. Remember when Samuel Jackson says that personality goes a long way? Right? A long way. It goes a long way. I mean, really, man, with a good personality, you could make a lot. I want to tell you actually a crazy thing, and you guys could actually do this. My friend Tony, he got in trouble with me, and one of our first gigs was selling T-shirts at Venice Beach, California, and sunglasses. And so there was always like Korean ladies selling fake handbags and sunglasses on the beach. And so I asked the Korean lady, hey, if I buy 50 pairs of sunglasses, how much are they? She's like, oh, I'll hook you up. So it was like $2 a piece. She probably was buying them for $1. She made 100% markup. So I grabbed a couple really hot chicks from school, and I'm like, hey, would you girls put on a bikini and some roller skates and a mirror and go up to dudes with their girlfriends and be like, hey, you need some sunglasses? How much? $10. And in a weekend, we made over $1,000 that first weekend. And I would pay these chicks $5 for every pair of sunglasses they sold. Not a pimp, sunglass pimp. No, just kidding, I'm messing. But we were selling sunglasses, it was legal, and as kids, we were making $1,000 a weekend, which is a lot in 1992. That was like crazy. And then we would take that money, go buy a bunch of nice food, and then the girls would tell their other friends, hey, those guys pay really good, and then we'd have food with them, we have a cooler. It was like great, chill out the beach, which was just amazing. Now, Tony doesn't like to talk to people that much, but he practiced one pitch. He had these stencils, and he'd knock on doors and go, hey, I can spray paint your street number on there for $20, And the people are like, I don't know, at 20. He goes, well, we have half price today, it's $10. If you do it right now, I just did your 5 neighbors, look, it looks good, huh? And this kid would make $300-400 a day. Just spray painting literally numbers, a stencil he got from Home Depot, Krylon, and he's used to spray painting buildings anyway and getting arrested. But he goes, this is easier. So it's this craziest things of like how people can make money. One more crazy story. A guy named Brian Scudmore. He is super smart now, but back in the day when we were younger, wasn't so, he's smart. But he's a junk guy. So he would pay people to clean up their yards and stuff and take all the junk to the dump, So, and it's been 31 years now. We started coming the same year. He's got a company called 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And this guy literally is a junk man. But I don't know what he makes, $20 million a year, like hauling people's junk still. Again, life's weird. And he got a Stanford degree too, which is really crazy, for free. So, it's so weird. Okay. Anybody here ever have anxiety and fear? Just raise your hand. Okay. You guys want to know the secret of to cure that pretty damn quick? Okay. This is good because especially when you have a lot of time to think, you tend to have a lot of anxiety and fear, right? Like you're running these scenarios through your head of like, oh, we call it woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? And I like saying that because we should all over ourselves. We should, oh, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Regrets. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read this to you. It sounds a little philosophical, but it is what it is. Courage is patience before you see the result and move back to old negative habits. You guys get that? Courage is patience before you see results and move back to bad habits. The friend of fear is worry. 99% of things you worry about actually don't happen. You guys notice that? Bad things happen, but like the stuff usually you're just freaking out about like aren't really happening. You're living 1,000 deaths in your mind, But here's the thing: if you end up dying, well, you're dead, and you're in a cloud. You're in Elysium or whatever. It's like, okay. Things that do happen so quickly, you don't need to worry about them in the first place. Usually when something crazy happens, it's so fast, it's like it's already done, right? But usually it's not that bad. Anybody here ever have the crap beat out of them? Or just eat it on a mountain bike or skiing or whatever, running? It doesn't hurt usually when you're eating it on the mountain bike or falling down the hill or getting punched in the face. It doesn't hurt while it's happening, right? It's just numb and you're tunnel visioned and you're all adrenalized up. So it's really not that bad. It's afterwards when you're thinking about it and you're like holding your head, that's when it hurts, right? So I wouldn't be too super afraid of it because it really doesn't hurt while it's happening, Yeah. So but after, yeah, it sucks. ROMPA, R-O-M-P-A. I know this is a big one. You guys might have to watch the video like 5 times again. This is how you solve any sort of situation. Give it to the security guys too, because for operators this is really good. I was taught this actually by old Vietnam general I was talking to at my parents' nursing home. Like, because he got all these bullet holes in him and all this. How do you deal with that, dude? That's scary, dude. He goes, ROMPA, bro. I'm like, what does it stand for? Well, the R is relax your mind. O, observe your situation. Be situationally aware. See what's going on. Manage your emotions. Don't forget to breathe, right? Manage your emotions. Plan your action. And then take super direct action on your plan. He goes, and you just repeat that. If you follow the Rampa rule over and over and over, anything that you have to deal with is going to be a lot easier to deal with. Does that make sense, guys? It's crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but hopefully we're going to have the video for these guys. Right? Rampa. So same thing with you guys in security. Things go crazy ever? Rampa, you know? Because the worst thing you can do is trip out, man. Like, don't trip out. Like, if you panic, it's like hitting black ice on your car or, you know, sliding out and taking your hands off the wheel and going, ah, God. You're just going to fall off the cliff and die. Like, keep your hands on the wheel, even if you're white knuckling it. Breathe, figure it out. You'll be all right. All right. Never deny problems, just confront them, right? So if you tuck problems, it usually doesn't solve them. If you engage and confront problems, it solves the problem. There's a game you can play in your head called the apocalypse report. Sounds a little morbid, kind of is. It's the cure to worry, right? So you define your worry situation clearly, and you can write it down. And this is what I'm worried about, right? What are you worried about? Identify the absolute worst thing that could happen. Loss of your job, your money, your freedom, your business, your life. Like, there's always a worst case scenario, right? Resolve internally to accept the outcome no matter what happens, right? So mine always was, well, if I die, if I've been a decent dude, maybe I'll get a cloud or be in a wheat field with the sun beating down on my face like Gladiator, right, Elysium. I mean, okay. And you won't even know you're dead because you're already dead, right? So resolve internally to accept that outcome. It's kind of a weird feeling. But you also tell yourself, the likelihood of this killing me is actually very low. Like the likelihood, right, of a business decision normally in life has a low chance of fatality, right? They may say no and not give you their money or buy or transact or get the contract, but hey. But be willing to improve upon the worst case scenario so it doesn't happen. So you can think of, okay, I can approach it this way and this way, my chances are better, right? You're thinking about ways to butter it up a little. And then take action immediately, whether it's writing down your plan, Rampa, do something, act quickly, get so busy you got no time to worry. Because worry is just because you're not taking action. Remember, we're convincing ourselves to manifest, like to take action. Like, don't waste too much time doing that. But then if you do this over and over, you're going to grow to not be afraid of anything. Pretty much. I mean, we all get scared sometimes, but less scared, less often. It'll be rare, right? Consistent, purposeful action toward your goals so you have no time to be afraid or worried, right? And then accept responsibility. And notice this. Anyone here have someone ever randomly just like say something to you or assault you in life? Like randomly, just some stranger? Like, okay, this is important because I always try to figure out why people do that, you know? And I figured it out. When we feel worthless, we lash out and blame others or attack others. So usually they have some internal pain. Maybe something happened to them when they were little. Maybe their chick just left them. Whatever it is, they're acting out because of something that's burning in their heart. You just happen to be standing there, right? So it's not even personal. They don't even care about you. You're just like a target, right? Think about that, right? And that's interesting because then you don't personalize anger as much, and then you're just aware, and then if you Rampa, usually will make it, right? Okay, now this is a tough one. Now, a lot of people don't like this one, but most pain is self-inflicted. So you just got to accept complete responsibility for your life, man. Like, whatever situation you're in, just be like, okay, I did this to me. Cool. And if you can truly come to terms with that, then you're not looking backwards and screwing with your neck, and you're looking forwards, and you're not guilting yourself every minute, you know? Like, okay, I did this to me. Cool. And you ever try to hide emotions like anger or anything? Just try to pack it in there. Just feel it, man. Just be pissed off for like 30 minutes if you need to be inside, and just feel it. Don't like try to get rid of emotions. And emotions are kind of like I'll use this funny one for the security guys. It's like getting pepper gas. It's going to go away, right? It just takes a while. But that's how most pain is. It just dissipates as long as you feel it. And the more you fight that pain, it amplifies it, and it comes back later to haunt you, right? It's like a ghost in your dream. So all negative emotions are caused by blaming others for something in your life you're unhappy about. All. I'm not happy about this one. I'm doing this and that. Yeah. It's all the negative emotions. So again, just say I'm responsible over and over again, and go back to that thing where you wrote down what you're going to do physically, financially, spiritually every day. Go back to those good habits. Okay. All right. Here we go. I won't go too much more on this responsibility. I've got like a million times. And then most importantly, resolve in advance. You won't be angry about something you have no control over. That's a big one. Decide ahead of time. Like, I can't control this. Like, don't be pissed off, So your homework is you write down your goals, okay? And I want you guys to decide who you want to be when you get out of here. Like, who do you want to be? And who has done that? And then read a book from them, study about how they did it exactly, and then mimic exactly as close as you can on how the plan that they did that, right? So read stories. Remember I talked about Epiphany Bridge, the myths, right? Because we're not all that different. Any feeling you're having now, every other man or woman has probably felt that for tens of thousands of years. We're not original. We're just regurgitating how other people felt and our ancestors, right? So just do that. And then you guys don't get cell phones in here, right? No. But you get one as soon as you're out, right? Okay. As soon as you're out, what I want you to do is take your action items that we talked about and schedule them on your phone. So it's like, okay, 7 a.m., workout, right? 8 a.m., meditate, right? And then schedule your work time. I'm going to make this many calls. I'm going to close this many deals. I'm going to look for this much work. I'm going to do this and this. One stigma, though, I will leave you with this, actually, because I had a brother-in-law, and he was in jail for like 8 years, and he said, nobody will hire me. I'm like, the reason why no one will hire you is because you say that because you went to jail, no one will hire you. He's like, that's not true. I'm like, well, if you keep saying that, then you're going to damn yourself before, And then he's like, oh. I'm like, just go, like, what company do you want to work for? He goes, I really like aquariums or something random like that. I'm like, well, go apply at the fish store and ask if you can stock shelves, man, And then I think he applied some place he wanted to, and he goes, they didn't even ask what I did before. They didn't even care. They just said, okay, when you start, So don't self-damn yourself before that, and follow guys and girls that have been in trouble, that have re-engaged and become great people and accomplished great things, And one of the greatest stories to ever read is, you guys ever read the Dave's Killer Bread story? Yeah. It's called Dave's Killer Bread because he was in prison, but now he makes millions of dollars like selling bread. It's really weird. But try to follow some of those stories of those guys and use inspiration, because everything around you, this phone, this water bottle, this room, is created by somebody that's no smarter or different than you. Everything. You drive, you eat, the sunglasses you wear, it's all invented by some man or woman that's just an average person. They're just like, there was a problem, someone needs a solution, right? Okay. I'll leave it at that, and then if we want to do you want to do Q&A? I can help you guys. Any questions? Help you. Yes, sir.
So I see you on TV, you wear these costumes, muscle costumes. What's the connection with that?
You guys ever watch Jackass? So I used to think that you had to wear a suit, and be all fancy, and to impress people, to be professional, and to get people to buy computers. But then I had this crazy friend, really crazy, and he's had a lot of run-ins with the law. But what he told me is, if you just act like a fool, people will notice you. But if you wear the suit, no one will notice you, but no one will not like you. So just act like a fool, and half the people or everybody will see it, and then more people will notice you and buy from you. And so I started dressing like crazy, like doing kung fu and samurai stuff. And our sales went up 500% in a year because it was entertaining. And this is before YouTube and all that stuff, you know. So I hope that answers that. When you guys, and you guys notice, you know how like a lot of business people don't want to talk about like the bad things they did in life, their misses? Because they're like, they're perfect. They're a church guy who's never done anything wrong. He's like a perfect husband, even though he's doing all this weird stuff on the side he doesn't want to talk about. And all this stuff. I'm just like an own book. I'm like, this is what you get. If you don't like it, I don't care. Like, you get what you get. But then people know when you're being authentic and they know when you're full of crap, right? Simple. So be yourselves. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Was your friend Dale Chauncey?
He was a wild man, yeah. His commercials were crazy, and he's like, your commercials are so boring they put me to sleep. They're the worst commercials I've ever seen. So he's like, do something stupid. And I go, I don't want to be as stupid as you. He goes, be stupid in your own way. I'm like, okay. And he goes, if it doesn't work, we'll go back to wearing your suit. I don't wear suits anymore. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, how long did it take you to become really successful through trial and error?
Success actually started happening immediately when I listened to the guy, because the first thing the guy said is, man, Dan, why do you always look so tired some days, like on Monday? And I go, well, because I got smashed on Saturday and Sunday. He goes, well, stop getting smashed so much. And I go, well, I love drinking. And he's like, well, just drink less. So finally I quit 9 years ago, you know. And I have more energy. As you get older, it doesn't have a good effect, you know, because you got to recover for like a week. Yeah, so that success started happening. So it's little baby steps. Like I got a little bit better. I got a little bit better. Little bit. But people are so hard on themselves. They're like, don't ever use a label. So you ever hear guys say, it's just my luck. Or, no, in my luck, this is what's going to happen. They like damn themselves. So fake it up first. Be like, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Everybody, and say it. Like when I'm working out, dude, like lifting weights, I'll be like, every day in every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger. I'm winning more and more. I'm getting luckier and luckier. I'm saying this, and sometimes when I'm jogging around, I'll say that, and then like people will walk by me in the park. That dude's on crack. He's talking to himself. I don't care. And because I'm like talking like this loud, like every day in every way, I'm getting stronger, yeah. And they're like, that kid's schizo, or half the people in the park are like that anyway. So it's like just blend in, you know. Okay.
Yeah, you said you grew up in a poor neighborhood, in a rough neighborhood, and growing up poor. How'd you go about finding the venture capital to start up your business, and how'd that process go?
Okay. I've never been a debt guy too much. Now, when you get into real estate and all this high-level stuff, yeah, you need to go to the bank because you probably can't buy the whole house yourself or building, right? But what I did is just sold. So electronics in the mall, and then I sold used cars, and I just saved that money. Just basically lived on ramen noodles and made my own food at home. Lived in a crappy, terrible basement that was like rat infested almost. It was pretty bad. And drove a car that was like $1,200. No one to impress, you know? Just rat holed a lot of money, and I used that money to do it. The problem is if someone just gives you money, or a bank just gives you money, those kind of things, if you didn't really earn it, like you're gonna waste that running your business. You'll be like, dude, I just spent all my money. But if you worked really hard and slaved to earn that money, you're gonna make sure you're watching it. You see what I'm saying? So that's the key. Get work immediately when you get out, preferably sales or high-paying labor. If you're not like that charismatic, holy crap, some of these construction jobs and things like that, dude, like even security guys, I asked some of these security guys that are brand new, standing around with their AR, they're standing there. I'm like, what do you make? And they're like, 30 an hour. I'm like, you stand there 10 hours a day, you get 30 an hour, bro? And it's like, well, it's dangerous. And I'm like, well, it's still pretty good money. I mean, you get a nice 3A vest, you know? And I go, how about that rifle? I had to buy my own. Do you like rifles anyway? Yeah. So it's like, I mean, you can make money whether it's with your hands, with your mind, with charisma, as long as it's something like your grandma would approve. Like if grandma would be like, okay, probably okay doing that work, you know, as long as grandma's a good person. Yes, sir.
I have no knowledge in this whatsoever, but you mentioned the word crypto. And March 19th, 2022, the president signed in a bill without the Congress and House knowing about crypto, the America turning to crypto. What's your biggest fear on that?
there's no fear. It all depends who's running the country. If you have let's not get political. If you have a bad man running the country who's like super communist, well, they're going to do bad communist things with it. If you have a patriot running the country and wants freedom for all men and women to make their own choices, men and women will have that. It's just a tool, like any tool.
What's the best place I would study that?
I would say, I keep asking about internet access here. All the newest crypto information is typically coming from like YouTube videos. There's certain websites, like if you just Google crypto news, just follow like 20 sites, and it's not all going to be accurate. But with the internet, it's all free. Now, the dumbest thing you could do is go to a college, pay $100,000 and take a crypto class, because think about it, I'm not anti-college, but how can a guy who's barely making his rent payment teach you how to be successful? You know, it's like, it's all theory. You know, it's like these guys that are like, you know, I've read all these books on MMA, so I can teach you. But if they haven't been in the ring, they don't know, you know? Yes, sir.
Is PC laptops nationwide now or just Utah?
PC Laptops is Utah. Xidax, Xidax, is national. It's, yeah.
So you have one more chain of PC lab, same name, out of state too?
Xidax is everywhere. It's like a website. Like you go to bestbuy.com or any of these computer websites, it's like that. You can get, you know, directly from our website. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So first of all, thank you for coming down and speaking with us.
Oh, welcome.
But you mentioned AI earlier. What do you think of it? Positive, negatives? What does it?
Like I'm into computer programming, and that's potentially what I want to do. So how does that affect that field?
Okay. Some of you guys are older here. Who here was around in the 90s and remembers when the internet was new? Raise your hand. Okay, good. You remember everyone said the internet was a scam? Remember everyone said never put your credit card on the internet? I'd never do my banking on the internet. This is when people would use their Visa card and go to the store and they'd use a carbon copy and their number was on it, and people would steal it out of the garbage can and go charge it up, right? So but the internet is actually more secure and buying something off the internet, right? So everyone's scared of blockchain, government, crypto, central bank digital dollar, AI. They're like, we cannot stop evolution. You cannot stop the evolution of mankind. So the question is, well, if you can't stop it, what are you going to do? It's a tool. You're going to learn it, and you're going to look for problems people have and how that can solve problems, right? So I would study blockchain, AI, internet, all these different things, and it may be just like my toilet buddy, my $300 million toilet buddy, you know? It's like, you're gonna find a really weird problem that people have that AI is gonna solve. You're gonna be the guy to bring that to market, and they're gonna be like, from prisoner to billionaire, you know, I mean, have a reality show on Netflix about you or something, you know? Life is weird like that, man. So that's what I would recommend you do. Just study as much resources. I know you have limited resources here, but any resource you can to learn about what's happening. So as soon as you get out, you're up to date and you're getting engaged with that. Now, the one thing is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, don't think like you're going to jump out, start your company immediately and be making $1 million. You're probably going to have to do crappy work. I worked at Interstate Brick, like in the evenings, miserable in the kiln. Just could have paid back in the early 90s $17 an hour, which was a lot back then extra, to get money together to start my business. So just do the work, man. You're going to be fine. Yeah. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
You spoke on energy and energy. Can you be more detailed about that?
Yeah, so think about all the energy it took for you guys. I think about what it took for me to do the bad things that I did. Took a lot of thinking, right? Or a lot of thinking or a lot of action, right? Like you had to move your body, you had to think about, you had to drive there, you had to run there, you had to run away, you had to think about all the outcomes, all the problems that could happen. How do I do this? How do I do that? That's the same sort of planning and thinking to do a good thing. Like, hey, if I want to start this, what could go wrong, right? How could I get in trouble, right? That's the same thing, because when you run a business, if you do, let's say you don't pay your taxes or something horrible like that, you're going to get in trouble, right? So you're just basically planning for the worst things that could happen and trying to think about how to solve those things ahead of time. Now, the one thing you can do to save time, a lot of people say you need to fail over and over and over to be successful. Everyone fails, but you don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. And you can save time by talking to someone who's been there and done it and just run the idea by them and go, okay, how should I frame this out? Like the old guy taught me, and you'll find plenty of people that want to help you. And realize this, the world is all about second chances. This is like the theme nowadays, People really want to give an opportunity and a second chance to somebody who went from Saul to Paul, Imagine though, look at all the work in Star Wars they went through to try to convince Anakin Skywalker to not become Darth Vader, Like they wanted to be a great, good Jedi, and he could have been. And at the end, after he was dead, he was, right? Just do it while you're alive, do the good things, make the conversion, and you can make the universe better, Yes, sir.
So you said you need to learn to forgive yourself. Obviously, you probably didn't just wake up one morning and decide to forgive yourself. Do you have any advice on where to start with that process?
So it depends what you're struggling with. If you feel guilty because you've done things, or is there anything you want to talk about?
In general, yeah. Obviously, we've done a lot of bad shit in our life.
Yeah. I would say the first thing is to work on yourself as far as your physical, financial, spiritual. First, educate yourself there, work out a lot, eat good as best you can, get your mental health in order as best you can, get other help. If you need help, ask for it, right? That's first, because you'll start feeling better about yourself. Then you're in a mindset where you can dig a little deeper and you can ask yourself a question, like, what pain do I have? What do I have nightmares about and wake up with a cold sweat about? Maybe you did something bad. Maybe you need to make amends for something you did. Maybe that person is not alive you can make amends for anymore. Maybe you'll have to do it 10,000 times more by saving somebody, 10,000 people, in the right way, As long as you're alive, you can make it better. I will say that no matter how much good you do, it never will completely 100% make you feel perfect about sins, right? And those of you that believe in Christianity, the only one who actually probably in Christianity is that can forgive you is God. That's it, But you have to contend with yourself on that. But again, by doing good, you feel really, really fluffy, You do. Yes, sir.
Did you get your motivation from self-help books like The Secret, The Power?
Read as many books. Some people will be haters on certain books. Oh, it's just this. It's just. Even if you get one good thought that drives you, it was worth it. It was worth it. So read as many. Dude, if I was in here, I'd be reading all day, push-ups, chin-ups, weights, whatever you. Yes, sir.
What's the backstory on how you got here? How are you sitting here in front of us talking? How did you wind yourself up in Central Utah Correctional Facility giving a speech? I want to hear the backstory.
I think I've done a lot of podcasts, and I just tell my story about what happened. I haven't spoken, though I've never spoken at an adult facility. I spoke to a bunch of juveniles back 15 years ago, and I got 20 letters from these kids. Dude, I started my own thing. I got a great job. Oh, I got this degree or whatever, And I was like, oh, that's pretty inspiring. And then I didn't get a lot of action, and then Ty reached out to me and he's like, hey man, you talk to these guys, maybe you can resonate with them, I saw Keaton Hoskins came and to speak to you guys. Did you guys see Keaton? The muscle guy? Yeah. The muscle guy. And I'm always teaching him stuff, and sometimes he teaches me stuff. He's a fun guy, like a TV show, and all that. So I was just like, wow, it'd be nice to go and talk to those guys. Here's the thing. I don't think I can save anybody. But my thought is, if that light bulb went off in one of your heads and you had an opportunity to do something great, or if something rough came down and you had the opportunity to do something bad or good, then you would have made a predecision of what path you were going to take. And if that saves your life or somebody's and makes it better, your children, maybe you haven't even met your wife yet, right? And you teach them that good, that's the only way I can live eternally, is by helping out and you guys doing it. And then all I ask you guys, if it works for you, please teach younger men, like when they get in it, because you're all going to be really old men one day, and there's going to be a bunch of young guys that get in trouble, and they're going to come to you to say, how should I deal with this? And you're going to tell them the right way or the wrong way. You're going to be Darth Vader, or you're going to be like Yoda, you know? Be like Yoda. He's cool. Yeah. Yes, sir.
In the early 90s, when you was in that dark place, before that light bulb came on, what do you think your biggest obstacle or downfall was besides yourself?
The biggest...
obstacle or downfall?
We were poor, like on food stamps, and it was freaking horrible. And then they started they started this thing in East LA, busing. So what they did is they would take neighborhoods from poor neighborhoods and rich neighborhoods and middle, and mixed everybody up. And so like, it was just like taking a bunch of black ants, red ants, green ants, shaking them up in a jar. And so like, suddenly we never had problems at school hardly at all. And suddenly there's like shootouts every day at school and stabbings like every day, like terrible stuff happening. And we weren't like used to this. And so I was just scared. So that's how I got in trouble. I started finding friends who could protect me and hang out with us. So I'm like, who are the most powerful guys here? Those guys. And I went over, hey, can I buy you guys lunch, man? You know? And I started asking them advice. And they're like, oh, we'll take care of you, bro. And I'm like, cool. So suddenly, I had all these friends. I wasn't beat up every day. Gave me a car, a girlfriend. It was great, you know. That was the enticement to hang out until I realized the price I had to pay for their friendship. Then it got crappy, you know. That happens to a lot of people, right? Like, it's out of fear, right? It's like, I don't want to get hurt, right? So then you tend to do things you normally wouldn't do, you know. So. But the key is, the big one, when you get out of here, and even when you're here, the 5 people you hang out with are who you're going to become. I know you probably heard that before, but if there's some guys here that are really on the right track physically, financially, spiritually, might be some of the older guys, usually older people tend to have those. Maybe it's one of the security guys here, you know, one of these guys that really care, give a crap about you. You know, it's not a job. They want to actually help you. But become friends with those guys, because that's going to give you positive influence. If you got guys that are negative, you can feel that energy. If they're negative, it's always hate, it's always drama, it's always complaining, it's always dark cloud. You know, dark cloud people. You don't have to be a jerk. You just lower your exposure. It's like watching your food cook in the microwave, hanging around with those people. They're vampires. It will suck the life out of you. And you'll revert back to bad things if you hang out with those people. So don't be enticed by that negativity. Yeah. Yes, sir. Last one.
You mentioned that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I was at the library and checked that book out just yesterday.
Oh, good.
I haven't opened it yet, but I was wondering what you think I should, once I do get into it, what's the best thing I can do?
Action. So don't read a book and be like, oh, I read that book. I read To Kill a Mockingbird. You know, it's like, they make you read that in second grade. Read that book and be like, these are 10 things I'm going to do, and I'm going to live it. You know, and if it's working for you, then the other guys, hey, how come he's doing so good? How come he's so chipper? Well, here, read this book, do 10 things. You know, and start hanging around guys. Like, you should got to do a book club here, and then get a group of guys and talk about the action and the struggles, and how did you get around that obstacle? And then you got good friends. Oh, last one? Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, if we get out and go to PC Laptops, can we get a discount?
We give all friends discounts. we always need people. So. Yeah. Okay, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you. Take what you will, but please execute on a few things. Share the love. Remember, your energy is your most important thing that you have. Don't waste it on anything negative. Only use it on things that's going to make your life better, okay? Appreciate it, guys.